Hello, it's Blue coming to you live from Mount Everest because we are at the tippy top of the world after winning our first Tumult Championship for Season 2. That's right, yours truly was able to go 5-0 piloting a Kojo and Buddha deck through a Swiss and a top cut in order to claim the top prize of a pretty sweet playmat. So, in this video, so all you lovely subscribers, wink wink, subscribe, can live vicariously through me, I'll be reviewing the full Season 2 Tumult Championship kit sent over by Equinox, and then going through my deck lists that took first place and gave a victory to Bravos for the Kurakami event. Thank you once again for all you supporters out there, and let's jump into taking a look at the full Season 2 Tumult Pack brought to you by me, talking now. Okay, so we are going to start off by taking a look at the Tumult Season 2 pack. I was lucky enough to get the full pack in order to distribute to everyone because unfortunately, we were not able to get it in time for the actual Tumult. So I'll be seeing just about everybody today at another event that I'll be able to give it to them. And I figured why not be able to share the entire package with anyone that wanted to take a look. So let's go ahead and open it up. This is the cardboard box that it came in, nicely labeled, as you can see on those two sides. And let's start with opening it. So a few things here. As you can see, we have a few of the foiled Tumult packages. They are, looks like wrapped in general and packaged together. Pretty nice as far as like the overall foiling on them. And if we look at it without actually opening it, they are a lot thicker than even the newer thick Tumult cards that we had recently with Trial by Frost. So I'll be interested to see how well these fit in sleeves or any of the different plastic containers that I've seen different folks put their Tumult cards in typically. But yeah, looks pretty cool. I'll put those to the side there. And next, we have some of the Scout cards that are rewards for everyone that got the top faction in the Tumult. So we actually were able to give out the Lyra one. So not all of them will be here, but the rest of them will be, and I'll be distributing them later today like I mentioned, but we'll take a look at the rest of them here for now. We have the Axiom Scout card, Vike. Pretty cool overall. They're kind of like as far as the material is concerned, like an even thicker form of the Tumult cards in a way. The back looks slightly different than a regular altered card. Definitely more focused on the Trial by Frost set. A little bit off center as far as the actual printing, but the corners are still pretty nice and smooth. And yeah, overall though, it's a nice little thing to use. I don't think you'll actually ever use these in a deck, obviously. And I don't know if you'll ever be able to collect enough of these Jumbo Scout cards to even be able to assemble one. And obviously they have this Scout on the front, so it's not like they have the actual effect of the card. But the majority of people probably already know. And they're labeled as the rare version, just so that way you get the full art, I assume. But yeah, there's Vike. Set that over here. Next is Garrett. the one that I will be keeping, since I ended up using Bravos in this first Tumult. Looks pretty cool. Happy to be able to start off with this one. I will be participating in at least one other Tumult and hoping to get another faction scout card. And so I will not be doing Bravos the second time, but still pretty cool. And also noticing there are some slight variations from the traditional card that I hadn't noticed before, really focusing on like the double banner setup for Bravos and for Vike as well, just on all the scout cards in general. But otherwise, that's about it. And we'll take a look at the other ones. Like I mentioned, we'll go ahead and skip the Lyra, as that was already given out. We have Saskia for the Muna Scout. Really enjoying the full arts on these scout cards. Have plenty of the promos at this point, but still looking for at least one of the rares, I think, for the Ortis side of things. And we'll take a look at that now. Here is Sunisa, which will also be shown on the playmat that I'll show here shortly. And this is one of the ones where I actually don't think I have the rare version of this card in faction as far as from the promos. But yeah, it looks pretty cool. Take a look at the back again. A little slightly off center, but still looks pretty cool. And we'll take a look at the last one here as far as Aurora for Ysmir. And again, I'll be getting all these out here later today. I do not get to keep all of them, but just doing the store a favor to distribute them to the folks that ended up showing up to the Tumult that we recently had. And yeah, there's all the scout cards. And now we'll take a look at the real good stuff as far as the playmats, and it looks like there's a poster in here as well. I imagine it's for like some type of promotion for the event, so unfortunate that we weren't able to get it before the event, but let's take a look at it now. Alright, so let's take a quick look at the poster. Probably going to be too big for the camera here, but we can kind of slide it. Nice. So it shows Altered, and then a little Kurakami, Trial by Frost, and then Tumult Championship. Ooh, relevant. And it also gives a little space at the bottom there to draw and show the date, I assume. But yeah, cool little poster there. But now let's get into this part that we probably want to take a look at the most. The championship playmat that yours truly will be able to keep, as I have won this first Tumult that I participated in. And it will be Sunisa on here, showing Tumult Champion, all the different marks for the playmat, and it's a little bit shiny as well, similar to the Kurakami setup. I'll go ahead and move this so that way we can take a look at it fully laid out on top of my existing playmat. But yeah, got the Gamegenic logo altered on the bottom left here with the set Trial by Frost Sunisa as the main character for this championship, and then we also have the Tumult Champion text in order to show, if you win, that you were the champion for said event. I will be curious to see on future sets if we get a different scout shown on the Tumult Champion playmat, or what they're going to be putting on there. Either way, should be a fun little setup. But overall, really happy with the playmat, and glad I was able to win this first event. And we'll be trying to win some future ones, but at either point, I am happy I was able to get at least one to take a look at and show everybody. And with that, we're going to go ahead and go to taking a look at the deck I used to win this first Tumult Championship. Okay, so here is the deck that I used to win the first Tumult Championship that I participated in. Sorry in advance for the glare on some of the cards. I will still review them and you'll be able to take a look as I go through each card. Not currently showing the uniques, and I will also show a few cards that I was considering including in the deck but ended up getting cut. May use them later on, try to test them out some more, but for the time being, let's go over the exact stuff that I used for this particular tumult. Starting off, we have the rare Tiny Gin. I think the only thing I'd do different at this point is include the third one that I had been using and cut one of the other rares in this deck as a whole. But for the time being, on this one, I decided to use two. Great card, probably one of the better cards in Bravos, especially in the rare. One cost is great, and a 0-2-0 stat line with the boost from reserve, helping you ramp. It's really one of those cards that you need to include in any deck list. We also have the Axiom Salvager, which is 1/1/1, and obviously resupplies. Only use this card just a little bit in this particular tumult, but sometimes it's nice to have, especially when you are running low on cards. You're not running into your card draw, or you may not running into your other resupply conditions that you have. It's nice to have in general, and it also works well with at least one of my uniques, and realistically probably a second as well that I'll take a look at here shortly. The other one costs that we have now in common are the Fire Rabbit, which it does have a glare, so I'll put it a little bit closer in case you were unaware what the Fire Rabbit does. I run three of these. I think that's pretty much a requirement in any Bravos deck at this point, no matter what hero you're running. And yeah, it's just that nice little, you can play it right away. If you have a character out, you can save it for the very last play just to add a nice little 2/2/1 worth of stats on the board, and it's pretty hard to beat. Then I have two of the Isenboshi as far as one cost cards. Another card that I didn't get too much use out of, but it does help fill in some gaps as far as some water-based or water terrain stats, and it also has that nice support ability in case I want to get another boost out of things. And like I mentioned, I have a unique that helps me get it to reserve without having to actually play it on occasion, but it's not too bad just to play because it is only one and it's a nice little pseudo after you if you need it. Now moving on to the two cost cards, we have the Snowman in the rare out of faction. One of the cards that I added later on into this deck, and it just is solid as far as stats are concerned. I think if at anything I'm going to change as far as rares, minus adding another Tiny Gin, is I may add another Snowman, because at 2/3/3 in stats, it's pretty hard to beat, and you just have to play around that effect of if it's not in water, it gains fleeting, which really doesn't matter if you're playing it from the reserve, but if you're playing it from hand, obviously it's nice to get into that water terrain. Next, we have the Bravos Tracer. Has a little bit of a glare, so I'll bring it up here. Yeah, it's just the good old-fashioned Beyond the Gates Bravos Tracer. Gains fleeting no matter where you play it, but it has 3/3/3 in stats, and it's only 2 costs from hand and reserve. Some folks don't use this as much anymore, or you try to use the rare to get more stats. I use this in particular because it's just a nice little card to be able to go over the top if someone's not expecting it. And I also have at least one unique that's pretty good about removing fleeting that I'll show you here shortly. That works really well with the Bravos Tracer. Next, going over on this side, we have the 3 Bravos Pathfinders. Doesn't really do anything other than just provide some solid stats in Mountain and Water, 0/3/3, as I'm sure everyone is familiar. Works really well from reserve, especially if you have a Haven Bravos Bastion out. And yeah, not much more else to say. Then, of course, we have 3 of the Haven Serengers. Also another must in Bravos decks these days. One of the few things that lets you draw. Has 3/1/1 in stats. And then if it has fleeting, when it leaves the expedition, you get to draw a card. Again, I'm able to utilize this pretty well with at least one of my uniques as to make it go to the reserve a little bit quicker if I want to, and some other cards that you'll be able to see later on. But can't beat card draw, especially when we've been lacking it in Bravos as far as in the Beyond the Gate set. Next, we have 3 Chiron, just a nice little card to give some boosts where needed. Not as effective as it is in a Basira deck, for example, but at minimum, it's a solid 2 cost, 2/2/2, and if you need to split it to your other characters, you can provide it. Going into spells in 2 cost, we have the 2 cost Mana Eruption in the rare. Just a really good removal. Hopefully you don't get it too early on to where you have to use your mana up a little bit, but it's a nice little card since most removal cards are in the 3 cost area, including the common Mana Eruption, and it gives you a lot of utility in case you run into some bigger permanents or some cards that you just really don't want to deal with, whether they be uniques, anchored characters, or the like. Next is some more removal. 2 of the Intimidation in the common. Another good card that you can utilize for any type of removal that you may need, including targeting permanents that you just want to send back. Obviously, it has the downside of giving your opponent some more cards in hand, but if it's played on a card that is 4 cost, for example, it's really mana efficient and it helps out. And it also is a good card to if you want to self-intimidate in some scenarios. Like I didn't use it for this particular Tumult, but you can also self-intimidate on a Haven Bravos Bastion, for example, if you want to get another resupply. And I've also definitely used it on one of my uniques that I can show you later on, where it has an effect when you leave the expedition. On to the 3 cost cards over here. We have the Ortis Spy in the rare out of faction. Just getting some more sabotage in, and I know a lot of people in using Bravos decks have been using Tooth Fairies. I like using the Spy, because as I mentioned for a few other cards, I have a unique that lets me get it into reserve if I want to just bypass the sabotage effect, and I just want to play a 2 cost Ortis Spy that can throw out a token as well. And it's really beneficial for me in that way and getting some additional stats. I also have a 1 of the Haven Bouncer, just adding a little bit more sabotage to it. It also has the bonus of having that boost from reserve. Not sure if I'm keeping this. I've gone back and forth with taking it out and leaving it in, but for the time being I like it and just having a little bit more sabotage involved in my deck. Next, we're going into the spells for the 3 costs, and I just run a 1 of Physical Training. I've seen a few people start running 2 of these, sometimes even 3. It is a really good card. If I could, I would add more, I think, but at the moment it's just difficult with the rare slots that I have available to me, and just run a 1 of at the moment. Next, we're going to the 4 costs, this time with the rare Mighty Djinn, as we have here. I only run 2. Again, it's just coming into the rare slots type of issue, and I also used to run a unique Mighty Djinn that was taking up that 3rd slot. I guess I could look into adding a 3rd if I wanted to, but I think I'm pretty happy with just the 2 at the moment. But yeah, other than that, add some ramp similar to the Tiny Djinn, and most of the time though, you're utilizing it for the card draw and playing a nice 3 cost character that has 4/4/0 in stats that usually can line up pretty well with the terrain on the Tumult by the time you're playing it. Going into the permanents I have in the deck, we have 2 of the Arcolano Milk. Not seeing everybody use this, but seeing a little bit of a usage on this. I like it in particular because it works really well when I'm playing things from reserve. I can utilize it pretty well with the Bravos Tracer that has the glare on it over here. And it works really well with a little bit of a combo that I have with one of my uniques that I'll be showing with you here shortly. Plus, I just like doing a little bit of setup on a Buddha turn. I'll pretty much just concede the companion zone or tie it if I can on a non-Buddha turn, and then have this in play, and when it comes out, it has a nice 3/3/3 in stats, and I really don't care if it's fleeting. Last, the customary 3 Haven Bravos Bastions. Feel like it's almost a must these days. I guess you could technically use the common and still have the effect, but just having card advantage with the resupply has been pretty nice, and that's why I have it on 3 total. Who knows, might switch it down if I need to open up some rare slots that I mentioned before. But for the time being, can't beat the boosts, especially since this was not hit by the errata that the Axiom Haven Bravos Bastion was. And finally, we'll go over the uniques in the deck. First off, We'll start off with probably one of my favorite uniques that I pulled in one of my first boxes. The Tanuki, 3 cost from hand, 3 cost from reserve, 2/3/0 in stats, and the effects are you may put a card from your hand in reserve if you do Sabotage, and when I leave the expedition zone, Sabotage. So it essentially can be a quad Sabotage if you're able to play it both times, or if you can remove fleeting, it makes it even more dangerous. This is one of the cards that I was mentioning working with my deck as far as using that first effect of when you may put a card from your hand in reserve if you do Sabotage. So traditionally it may be a negative thing of having to put a card from hand in reserve, but I'm able to utilize it pretty well with cards like the Haven Saringer, or realistically just any card I want in reserve, so I can play it and utilize a Haven Bravos Bastion, for example. Sometimes I've definitely even thrown the Spy in reserve, trying to not having to worry about the Sabotage and playing it for 3 cost, and instead being able to play it for 2 cost and get more stats on the board. But yeah, makes it pretty useful and more than just for a Sabotage. Next, we'll go ahead and take a look at the next 3 costs in my deck. It is a Haven Bouncer, and it has 3 costs from hand, 3 costs from reserve, 2/3/2 in stats, Sabotage from anywhere, and from reserve, if you control 2 or more boosted characters, the next card you play this afternoon costs 1 less. Realistically, just a Sabotage utility. I don't think I used the reserve effect, or I was able to, but it's nice when you can get it off. It's probably one of my weakest, or the card of, as far as my uniques that I would change out if I found another Bravos unique that I wanted to throw in there. But it's just helpful, and it has a solid stat line as far as 2/3/2. That additional mountain can definitely help out sometimes. And the final unique is a Council. It is 4 from hand, 4 from reserve, 3/2/4 in stats, has the traditional Council effect that does not have any type of condition on it, and it also has an effect when another character joins your expeditions. You may have target character other than me lose fleeting and gain 1 boost. So this is one of the unique cards that I mentioned working pretty well with my deck, and why I made some decisions as far as cards with fleeting on them, because it essentially is a helping hand as soon as a character joins your expedition, which works really well, for example, with the Bravos Tracer, even the Ortis Spy from reserve that I mentioned, and having a preference there, because it'll actually trigger twice, once on the Spy and one on the token, and I'm able to either boost the token, even though it wouldn't have fleeting, or just remove fleeting from another character at any point, because it allows me to target any character with the effect once a character joins, and not necessarily the character that joined itself. The only downside is it's not necessarily any character because it can't target itself. And I don't actively have any other card that can remove fleeting from it anymore. I used to run some cards, or trying some different cards to remove fleeting from it so I can have it cycle, but I found by the time I got it out and I was able to utilize it, the game was pretty much close to done anyway, and I got the usefulness out of it, even if I used it twice, and I was able to cycle the other cards into my reserve. But yeah, those are the 3 uniques, and to wrap things up, I'm going to go over 3 cards that I was thinking about including into my deck, but decided not to. And it's these 3 here. Twinkle Twinkle, just to have some more interaction, and just having a nice 2-cost sleep, and even cost reduction comes in useful. I messed around with this a little bit, but decided not to use it in preference for other rares. 2-cost Icebound Peak, another permanent that I was messing with. I think it's really good when you're able to get it off, and it's quite easy to do with the amount of fleeting that can just be played from hand, for example. But I decided the preference of like more consistency with some of the other rares. Still think I might try to make this work in this deck, or maybe another deck in some way, but decided not to go with it this time around. And last is just a common Eat Me energy bars. This was more so along the lines of just having a surprise factor in the deck. There are some cases where you can get some fairly decent boosted single character expeditions, and even in some scenarios being able to use this on just a Buddha, for example, and just having additional stats on the other expedition because it's gigantic is something that not a lot of opponents can expect in this, and I was thinking about including it, but decided against it, and it may be something I take a look at in the future. Well, that's it. That has been the full deck list that I use for this first Tumult. I'll probably use a different deck list in future ones, or at least the one that I'm still planning on going on today, and we'll see how that one goes as well. But for the time being, I hope you enjoyed the review of the Tumult set package itself, taking a look at my deck list, and hope to see you on the next video. I'll see you in play on the next day.